The database. Enjoy your stay. Warning to sensitive wanderers. This article has a section detailing the behavior of self harm. If you are sensitive to such topics, please do not read the second section of the behaviors area. Thank you for your cooperation. Entity number 194, the Crystal Sisters. Concord Entity Classification System. Habitats: Level 197, Crystal Caverns. Indexed Entity Threat Score: Danger 0, Intelligence E-. Class: Neutralized. Properties: Dominant and Unique. Description: The Crystal Sisters are a now deceased group of entities that used to reside in Level 197, Crystal Caverns. Each sister resided in a zone of Level 197, thought to relate to each of their demeanors and current conditions. Error 500, Internal Server Error. He misses them so much. They were so nice. I miss them dearly. There were 3 sisters, each one of them made from the crystal of the zone they resided in. More information is held below. Behavior. The Crystal Sisters were all radically different in behavior. The Turquoise Sister, Vivian. The sister that resided in the Turquoise Zone introduced herself to all wanderers as Vivian, and everyone who interacted with her described Vivian as, quote, one of the most lovely entities in the Backrooms, end quote. She would provide distilled water, rest, and hospitality to all that entered. She would make conversation very interesting, with her stories having high amounts of emotion, description, and general entertainment. She would talk about her family, her past, and how her zone came to be. All wanderers who listened to this story were affected in some way emotionally, with most showing empathy to Vivian. Vivian would consistently give depressed or struggling people hugs, encouraging them to go forward. Many who received said hugs felt better, saying that, quote, it didn't help immediately, but it just felt like someone was there for you. You know, like there was someone who cared for you. End quote. Many people stay in the Turquoise Zone to see Meditation Cove and hope that Vivian will return one day. Error 10 gone. He remembers them all. No image caption available. Vivian was the best of us. It didn't matter who it was. She would care for them all the same. Even when pushing me out of the dimension and into the void, she seemed reluctant and wanted to think twice about what she was doing. She is who I miss the most. Here is a drawing my fellow Whispers have drawn up. They're surprisingly helpful when it comes to things that are foreign to me. Hey, are you making fun of us? Yeah, that's kinda mean. I jest. The Amethyst Sister, Ita. Ita was the Amethyst Sister and was always very sickly. Those who got close to her, with or without any gas mask, would succumb to illness almost immediately. She would seem to hate how no wanderer could get close to her and would usually hit herself or scratch at her body. When wanderers would try to calm her down, she would not listen and scream to leave her alone. Her screams would break gas masks and burst eardrums, and it was not recommended to try and talk her out of self-harm. Ita, when dormant, would always try to end her own life. These means were vast, and some were deemed too descriptive to put in this article, though a few were not. Her slamming her head against a cavern wall, particularly on a crystal shard, trying to break her own neck, and scratching at her chest to try and pull out her quote-unquote organs. When walking through the halls after an attempt on her own life, she would sob or tiredly call out for her sisters or her quote-unquote brother. It is currently unknown definitively who the brother to the sisters is, but it is widely agreed that the Dark Sovereign is their sibling. Since she would try and stay away from wanderers, not much more is known about her. Error 05. Method not allowed. She was in so much pain. No image caption available. Ita was in so much mental pain from her physical condition. She was always malnourished, thinner than a bone, and hunched over in some regard. I wish I could have helped her. Even though I never talked to her, I feel as if I may have been able to help. At least I can live well, knowing that she wished to see me again. In time, Ita, we will see each other again, very soon. I will give you a hug that no one was ever able to give you. She looks so sad. Can we help her? I want to help her. Patience. Trust me. I wish to help my sister as much as anyone else would want to. No one was there for Ita. No one could ever heal her pain. Her sisters could not reach her. Humans could not help her. And sadly, you whispers could do nothing but tell her that everything was okay. Would that not be enough? Yeah, we like to try as much as we can. Telling someone that something will be okay is only part of the process. Physical affection works much more. That is why I bring them back. I will hug her first. The Ruby Sister, Killian. Killian was the sister who resided in the Ruby Zone. Always angry, she would kill any wanderer she saw on sight and throw their bodies into the pits where Crimson Fortresses now reside. Killian would always be spotted ripping chunks out of her body and hurling them into the walls of the caverns, with the pieces she ripped off regrowing on her body soon after. She would slam the ground to create crystal spike traps, tear down walls for caverns where entities now reside, and generally destroy the terrain of her zone. Footnote: this is most likely why the Ruby Zone is the largest zone in regards to dimensions, excluding the Onyx Zone. End footnote. She would constantly scream at wanderers to get out of the Ruby Zone and would even chase them away. Wanderers would reportedly sweat madly when running away and become heavily dehydrated, usually collapsing from exhaustion. She would kill victims quickly, and when leaving the scene, their bodies would reanimate into a random entity. With Killian being the most hostile of the three sisters, no more information can be gathered other than what could be heard echoing down the halls. Error 12. Precondition failed. She was misunderstood. No image caption available. Killian was an enigma, to say the least. She was always so angry, and is probably what influences some of my thoughts and behaviors as well. She was a large part in creating this little plane of existence, and her fortresses still stand strong. Maybe she was dealing with something internally. Maybe people just misunderstood her. I will never understand myself, but in the time to come, I hope I can help her calm. It's for the best. I think we drew her quite well. Yes, you captured her look very well. Why was she so angry all the time? If only I knew the answer to that question. She seems like a nice person, though. How can someone so angry be nice? It's possible. They just show their affection in ways that are different to others. You little voices have things to learn. Biology. The Crystal Sisters were all made of pelagonal crystals, which gave them a humanoid appearance. Vivian was the largest of the three sisters, having a much bulkier body type. Ita was the smallest, being the shortest and the thinnest. Killian was somewhere in between, having a fit body type and being in the middle of height. The sisters all had a crown atop their heads, each made of a different material. Vivian would wear a crown made of metal resembling silver, with a beautiful turquoise crystal in the center. The design of said crystal was very elaborate, and, as of now, no pictures or drawings of the design are able to be given. The crystal was said to have given off feelings of relaxation, and even set depressed or tired wanderers to sleep. Ita's crown was made of an item resembling uranium, and her amethyst crystal was described to be, quote, hastily cut, as if not much effort was put into it, end quote. Wanderers who looked into said crystal felt nauseated, exhausted, and suddenly became depressed. Killian's crown was made of solid iron and had a basic diamond-shaped ruby in the center. Her crown always gave off a red glow wherever it was facing, almost as if the crystal itself was watching where it was looking. When wanderers looked into it, or had the red glow shined upon them, they immediately felt angry, enraged, or had an urge to break something. As of now, no drawings are able to be given. An artist is working on giving a rendition of the sisters, as no images were ever taken of their appearance. Discovery. The Crystal Sisters were discovered in 2003 by an abundance of wanderers entering level 197. As expected, Vivian was the first sister to be found on the 14th of February 2003, and many were eager to stay with her. Ita was found soon after on March 1st, 2003, though many stayed away from her due to her infectious properties. Killian was discovered on November 21st, 2003, as many wanderers could not find a suitable source of gas masks until early November. No detailed reports of Ita or Killian exist, and many submissions for Vivian were repetitive about their experience. We have found it necessary to only include the dates of when they were discovered. Link to related tale. Whispers from the dark. The Backrooms. Darkness surrounds you. The beginning. Such a time that is only able to be theorized about. No one truly knows how this place started, no matter how much knowledge they say they have. The beginning brings upon a dimension of new arrivals, fresh slates, and persistent exploration. For millions of years, this plane of existence remained inhabited by its native creatures, the crazed abominations, note, see Entity 15, wretches that are an amalgamation of decayed flesh, smoke-like smiles, note, see Entity 3, smilers, which radiate through the darkened halls, and large insects, note, see Entity 4, death moths, that only wish to fly and find lights. In this alternate reality, there are some particular entities which only exist by themselves. A nice woman, note, see Entity 140, Blanche, who serves people cups of tea. A girl who just loves puppets, note, see Entity 139, the puppeteer. And a teacher, note, see Entity 91, Mr. Freeman, who may be in the wrong plane of existence. There are others, though, others in this place that don't wish to be seen, those who are trapped, or maybe those who are just wanting to be alone. This is where we begin his tale. The Crystal Caverns, note, sea level 197, was created with every other location in this dimension left by itself, forming its structure and developing its hospitality. 3 beings were created when the level emerged. They were made of crystal, 3 different types, and looked at each other. They were all sisters, or so they assumed. They wondered if they had someone different, someone new. Then they heard someone walking down the caverns, much deeper footsteps than the 3 of them. The heavy steps turned the corner, and they saw another rock figure, yet this one was a man, made of a deep black crystal. The 3 were intimidated by him, and they thought that he would control whatever would happen in these caves. They pushed him away, forced him into a void of nothingness, almost as black as the crystal man. The turquoise didn't like what they had done, and in a fit of sadness, she pushed her sisters aside. The family was separated. With all of their panic, and 3 short minutes, the 4 crystal figures, who could have done so much more, had pushed each other apart. The turquoise girl had made her own area, the place where travelers would begin, and greeted them when she came across new beings. The amethyst girl had fallen ill from sadness and heartbreak, falling deep into her home and tainting the air as a result. The ruby girl was so full of rage that she exploded in anger, throwing shards of herself into the surrounding environment. As these areas began to expand over time, the life source of the girls was draining. They knew their time was beginning to end, and they began to make their last acts. The turquoise girl, now old, transparent, and cracked, walked into a large cavern she had never seen before. She lay on the cold, gray rock and closed her eyes, dying peacefully. As her body faded, she formed into what is now called Meditation Cove, which releases the feeling of her loving care and relaxation she always had. The amethyst girl had been suffering all this time. She couldn't stop coughing, she couldn't stop bleeding, and she couldn't stop aching. She had wished death upon herself as quickly as she could, and soon enough she would be granted her wish. She found a way to go down in her home. As she went through the hole in the floor, she fell and cracked her head on the new layer. Her head and body crumbled into shards. As she cried tears of joy that her pain had ended, her home became much deadlier. The Ruby Girl was still so caught up with anger that she did not realize what she was doing to herself. For millennia, she had been tearing pieces of herself out and throwing them into the walls, making the caverns hot and humid. These destroyed areas of her body had regrown over time in the past, but now, in the future, had caught up with her. Death was knocking at her door, but she wouldn't go down without a fight. She had relied on anger for so long, and thought that's what was keeping her alive. She let out the loudest roar she could, the loudest scream, and the loudest cry of rage heard across the entirety of this dimension. She exploded violently, and as her head hit the ground, her eyes opened in shock, feeling the calamity of her death. She was finally free from the rage, free from the turmoil, and she was happy. She could now rest peacefully. For years, the black crystal figure had been floating. He had nowhere to go, no home to return to, no domain to rule over. In the time he was in this blackness, he hadn't the power to create something of his own. He was helpless, stuck falling in wherever it was that he was. He had to use what power he had to escape this place. With enough struggle and years of dormancy to collect energy, he broke out of the endless void and emerged back in the caverns. It was dark, silent, lonely. Or was he? Or were his sisters? Why was everything so dark? He was filled with despair, sadness, and heartbreak, anger, rage, and somehow a sense of calamity. Everything that his sisters had felt, he was now feeling, but he didn't register the correlation yet. He was feeling just so much that he just punched into a wall, and then slowly slid down the cavern wall. Past his sobs, he could hear the diabase breaking and cracking, and crystals began to emerge from the rock. The cavern lit up around him, and through his tears, he saw the beauty of the tunnels around him. This is beautiful. Did I create this? He didn't care that he somehow had a voice now. He was more focused on whether he actually created all of this himself. Heartbreak turned into wonder as he explored the caverns, his eyes lighting up the path in front of him. There was so much here. He had created all of this. He finally had something. He had something to call his, to protect. Years of boredom and internal torment finally released and turned into a wonderful domain which he could call his own. Yet, he still was alone, wasn't he? He only had himself and these crystals. What was the point of his domain if he couldn't tell people about it? Wait, why would he want to tell people about it? Who are these voices in his head? Why is he indecisive? It sounded like 3 people were going back and forth, yelling in his head about what to do. You should open it up and tell people about it. Imagine how much fun you could have with the other people. No, keep it closed off. People are just gonna make fun of it and say you did nothing. Kill everyone who comes here! They don't deserve to see all of this! What? No, I'm not going to ruthlessly kill. That's out of the question. We're not going to do that. A08. Incomprehensible. Why are you so bloodthirsty? Because of what happened in the past. Now find people to kill. Error! Guys, we should stop arguing. It's not like this situation is going to improve from tearing our voices out. The voices had stopped with the last girl's remark. Where were these girls who threw him into the void, who were so scared of him? He definitely recognized the yells of the woman yelling, as he could hear her roars from anywhere he was. The second girl sounded weak, sickly, and ill, and the first girl was simply comforting, just her voice soothing the being. And as the voices faded out, he fell to the ground, losing consciousness. Years passed as he was on the ground, asleep. During his slumber, humans had entered this alternate dimension and had dubbed them the Backrooms. Such an odd name. Explorers had come through and classified the caverns as Level 197, Crystal Caverns, analyzed every part of the tunnels, and established their presence in the caves. The sisters were obviously not happy, but they couldn't do anything, as the dark figure was still asleep. Should we wake him up? If so, it will be one of the last things we do. Our energy is running thin. He may never wake up if we don't make him, and who knows, maybe he'll find a way to bring us back, even as voices. For once in millennias, the sisters agreed on something. Acting as a family and going through with their final decision, they used the rest of their life force to awaken their dark brother. His eyes snapped open and illuminated the ground, and he got up, rubbing his now horned head in pain. What is on my head? What am I wearing? Looking down, he could notice that he had many new additions. He now wore a suit of armor, that of which was surprisingly comfortable on his body. A soft, smooth cape rolled around his back, and he grabbed it to feel its embrace. The heavy cloth ran over his fingers and almost soothed them. He had never felt this material before. On his waist was a mighty greatsword, sheathed in a metallic material. He pulled out the blade, and its onyx composure rang throughout the tunnels with a high-pitched ring. It was harmonic, and he swung the weapon around to feel its swift motions. For many, this would be impossible to lift, yet he could swing it as if a child was holding onto a piece of paper. He laughed, emitting a deep and genuine chuckle. He then admired the blade. He hugged his new possession, happy that he had something else with him. He knew that somehow his sisters had made these for him. The questions of how could wait until later. For now, he was happy. Happy that he had something to remember them by. Moments later, he heard the voices in the tunnels. They sounded different. Nothing he had ever heard before. He looked up at the caverns in the distance and walked towards the sound of people talking. One started screaming in pain. "Fuck! Fuck! 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 My arm!" a woman screamed. "I can't see you. Use your medkit. I know I packed it in your bag," another man replied. "I can't see my damn bag. I knew it was a bad idea, Charles." "So what, Diana? We needed to explore down here." The arguments kept going while the being got closer. Crystals on the walls rung and vibrated as the people talked, and it led him towards their location. He turned the corner and saw the two people clear as day. A woman who had a large gash on her upper arm, and a man who was looking around for the woman. They both saw the glowing eyes of his, and immediately stopped talking, startled and shocked at the looming presence of the being. What is it, Charles?" "I don't know. I've never seen it before." Charles pulls out a pipe weapon and raises it, getting ready to swing. "You better not come close. I'm warning you." The being stepped forward and revealed itself. It was darker than the blackness of the tunnels, and the man shuddered in its imposing nature. The beast was filled with a protective type of anger, and he looked down at the man. You dare to threaten me in my own home, in my own domain. Succumb and kneel, and maybe you will make it out alive. He didn't know why he was so angry. It was surprising, to say the least. The man nodded and slowly kneeled, going to one knee. The woman, however, was not happy that she had received an injury on her arm, and she blamed the being for it. With a yell, she pulled out her pipe and charged at the beast, hitting it over and over with the weapon. Charles tried to protest, but it was too late. With the blade swing and sounds of dripping blood, the woman's head fell right off her shoulders. Charles didn't need to see her to hear the sounds. He yelled and picked up his weapon, again going to swing, but before he could make contact, a huge hand clamped down on his head. It burned so badly that he thought he was in lava. He screamed, flailed, cried, and begged to be let down, but the being didn't let him go. With tears streaming down his face, Charles's head became black, and soon enough, he went limp. What have I done? He looks at his handiwork, a dead woman and a man who had suffered way more than he should have. The beast looks at his hands and wonders why that happened. Why did he kill the woman? She was nowhere near strong enough to break anything on him, much less scratch the armor. Why did he grab the man's head? He killed him just by touching him. The bodies faded into nothing, and soon he could hear something. It was strange, to say the least. Someone else was in the caverns. "Hey, you're cool. Can I stay with you?" He had never heard this. Who else was here? It sounded young, like a child or a teen. "Who are you?" "I'm a voice, silly. I'm behind you." He spins around and sees no one. Confused, he turns around again to see the diabase ground. Where was this kid? He was very confused. "No, I'm with you, like as a spirit." "Spirit? What do you mean?" "I'm a ghost. You can't see me, but I can see you." "Are you one of the people I had just killed?" "Kinda. I mean, I remember their memories and experiences, but I don't feel like them. I think I'm just me." Interesting. Silence accompanied them for a while, with the sudden question from the whisper every now and then. Whatever they were, they're quite repetitive. "What's this? What's that? Where are we?" etc. "Are you a king? That crown of yours is really cool." "I suppose I could be considered a king. What do you mean by crown?" He reaches up to his head and feels an item floating above his head. He pulls it down and observes the crown in his hands. It was beautiful. It had 3 gems in it, the crown, with the turquoise in the middle, amethyst on the left, and ruby on the right. They were his sisters, and to him, they were right here in his crown. "What are those white crystals? They look cool." "White? No. These are different colors." "What do you mean, white?" "They look white. They even glow." Maybe only he could see the colors. They were his sisters, after all. He puts the crown back on his head, his heart warm, and continues walking through the caverns. Years have passed yet again, as most of his actions are uneventful at best. Many people came and went, and with the few nice ones came many of the bad. He had learned that these people never were nice in their lives, and to the ones that couldn't show simple respect, he killed swiftly. With every few deaths came a new whisper to the grouping, and now he had gained 20 whispers. "My, there sure are a lot of you." "Yep, there's a lot of us now. I like having company. They're really fun. It's cool down here. You're cool too." He chuckled at their remarks. Maybe these whispers weren't so bad. They seemed to have a lot of fun with him, and even though he didn't do much, he felt nice to know that he was doing good. Maybe not good to gain the whispers, but good to have them. They were nostalgic. As he pondered on his past, one of the whispers had caught his attention. Hey, do you have a name? He perked up. No one had really asked for his name before, and to be fair, he didn't know if he remembered it. I do have a name, though I'm afraid it has been lost to the vault of time. Even if I did remember it, my name is of no importance. It is old and only reminds me of past times. People have been giving you a name. Oh, and what would this name be? They call you the Dark Sovereign. We think it's really cool. Yeah, it sounds awesome, like you're a hero or something. Sounds more like a ruler to me. The Dark Sovereign, eh? My. Now, that is a very good name. I like it. Sea level 197, Crystal Caverns.